Much like an escaped gorilla, tonight's serial murderer wreaked unstoppable mayhem. He traveled in the shadows, savagely murdering, raping, and carelessly tossing his victims aside as he searched for his next kill. 25 helpless victims would suffer through the worst imaginable deaths until police finally captured, caged, and executed Earle Nelson, the gorilla killer.
So, if you're at youtube.com, type in Talk Murder to Me, and you can see this live.
I'm gonna take a sip of this drink.
Also, if you are a podcast listener, you can go to talkmurder.com, and you will see the post from tonight where I put all my episode sources, my photos, videos, and you definitely do not want to miss this killer tonight. It's a very interesting story. And I would love for you guys to follow along with us at home. So talkmurder.com or youtube.com and type in Talk Murder to Me.
I can't keep looking at the screen. They're making me dizzy. The loop.
Well, there is a reason for the gorillas. It's the hint. That was the hint for tonight.
Yeah, the hint is gorilla.
Mm-hmm.
So we're drinking, it's kind of a spin on a banana daiquiri. It has fresh banana, rum.
Mm-hmm. A little bit of your screwball whiskey.
The peanut butter whiskey.
And just ice.
Yeah.
Ice and water.
Mm-hmm. So it's good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. That'll do the job. We started drinking before this, so whoops.
This is episode 202, I believe. It may be even like 204 or 5. I just kind of guessed. I know we've already went over 200.
Somewhere around here.
I'm being conservative. So it's 200 and something, and I'm going to start keeping track of these things.
202-ish is what you should have.
Yeah.
But that's all right.
But we'll start with 202 and see how that goes until I figure out that we're like 20 behind.
That's fine.
All right, so let's take the shot and let's get it on.
This looks like something that also would have been good in the drink. Surprise shots, surprise shots. We don't know what they are because they're a surprise.
It was like a very deflated one. Cheers. I promise you guys will like it more than last week's.
I like it better than last week's. It's not bad. It has a nutty flavor to it.
That is maple pecan liqueur.
Oh, see, I was right. Pecan is a nut.
Nailed it.
It's pecan.
Okay.
I see. I've heard differing things that they pronounce them like down here specifically. It's not pronounced
down here. Is that what you meant?
Yes.
Down here where we screw our cousins.
Hey, you said it, not me.
I would say do you, but don't.
Yeah.
Why would I do me when I can do my first cousin, Sally? Shit.
Well,
I really hope you don't have a first cousin named Sally. That would be awkward to see your grandma's this Christmas.
I heard that down south they call them pecans unless they're talking about pecan pie. That's what someone said that, but I don't know how true that is. I just call them pecans.
All right, let's get started.
Okay.
So tonight, give me So tonight the hint was gorilla. So tell me, Jen, where are we going and who are we killing?
I think we're going to Disney. We're talking about Harambe.
Oh.
Did you say Disney? Disney World?
Harambe. Was it Disney that he was in?
What the fuck is Harambe?
He was the gorilla that escaped.
Everyone got upset about.
Oh, did he kill somebody?
Yeah, a kid escaped into his pen and I think the kid got killed.
Oh, that's right.
And they shot him.
Oh, those fucking animals. Number one, all right, do not
I can't remember
support.
I can't remember.
Do not support your local zoo at all. Okay, shut zoos down unless you want to start caging up humans.
Support Carol Baskins.
Dude,
what?
Just
all right,
kidding.
You're taking
Carol
animals.
Baskin killed her husband.
I know, it was a joke.
You're taking animals, gorillas, tigers, all this stuff, and you're caging them up for entertainment. Screw that shit. I want to burn down every zoo in the nation.
Let the animals out first.
It's bullshit. Do not support your local zoo at all.
Where do they go then? They can't go back into the wild.
We don't need zoos when we have fucking Netflix and National Geographic. You can see all that shit on TV.
I'm just saying.
We don't need zoos. You don't need to take your snot-nosed kid who's not even caring anyway to some zoo. You're just caging these animals for no freaking reason.
But I don't think zoo animals can survive in the wild at this point.
Dude, it doesn't matter. Why don't someone cage you up for 20 years and be like...
I'm not advocating. No, I'm just saying.
If someone cages you up for 20 years and then they're like, well, I can't let you out now. You've been in here 20 years. I don't think you'd be able to get a job or anything.
You know, they are talking about shutting down the country for the quarantine, so...
I'm just saying, man. You know what? Go to your local zoo right now and let all the animals out.
Oh, God.
I don't think that will end well for any of us.
All right, tonight.
Wait, I haven't guessed. Jen guessed hers.
Ugh.
I think this is more like a Sasquatch story, and there's a murderer that's out, but people think it's a Sasquatch. I don't know why. It could very well be a gorilla.
What
do
we think about Sasquatch? What's the group opinion? I don't have one.
I don't think there is a Sasquatch.
What about a Loch Ness Monster?
I don't think there's a Loch Ness Monster. Do you think there's a Nessie?
I mean, there could be. It could be an aquatic dinosaur.
This is 2037 Pierce Street. It's still there. This is a condominium apartment.
Okay.
And this is actually the first murder tonight of the serial killer we're talking about.
Oh.
Let me go down to the street view here.
Oh, look, a little man pulling a bag. Oh, person walking her kids.
Where's the bad guy?
Turn around. There you go.
Oh, I want to go trip him.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
You are the Grinch.
I know.
Is this San Francisco?
Yeah, San Francisco, near the Bay Area. So this house...
Looks like Mrs. Doubtfire's house.
I'm pretty sure it is this one, this pink one right here, because this one is 2033. No, so I think it's this one right here. This one. Because it's hard to tell exactly which one it is by zooming in, but I did see that this one is 2033, and we're going to 2037. So if that's 2033, this is 2035, then this must be it, which is kind of crazy because it has a for rent sign at the window, and at the time of this murder, it also had a for rent sign. It was a little earlier in history, but it was the same house. So kind of a coincidence. This is near the Bay Area. Now, a man named Roger Wilson, he was a 20-something, decent-looking man. Well, I shouldn't say that. He was not the best-looking man, but he didn't look like a serial killer. And number one, his name wasn't Roger Wilson either. That's his alias.
Okay.
He goes to this apartment right here, and he walks up to the door because there's a for rent, and he's actually looking for a place to stay. He tells the landlady, Clara Newman, that him and his wife are moving to the area, and they're looking for a place to stay and eventually raise kids. One thing she liked about him is he was carrying a Bible, and he was dressed like a preacher, and he started quoting Bible verses, which I do the same thing to manipulate people, so I get it. So
it sounds like I'm just gonna drink more.
So Nicole, if you want to read this is a quote from the book that we're reading tonight. I'll talk about the book here in a minute, but just go ahead and read this for us.
Earle had no hesitation or thought for the other residents of the large building. The moment that they were in the receiving room, he lunged forwards, wrapping those massive hands around Clara's throat and bearing her to the ground. She could not scream.
Oh, dear.
So Clara, she was an older lady. She was 55 years old.
Uh-huh.
He goes up to the...
That's not that old.
Middle-aged.
I mean, yeah, middle-aged. but he prefers older ladies, as you'll see. He goes
because
up.
they're easier to kill.
Yeah, so he goes up, and if you want to read this is from the Oakland Tribune. This is a pretty old newspaper I found.
San Francisco woman strangled to death. Miss Clara Newman, 55, is murdered by man who entered on pretense of wanting to rent room. Visitor bids victims kin goodbye and declares he will come back. Battered body is found hour later.
So he just killed her right there that day?
Killed her right there, yeah.
Walked in, asked for a room to rent the house, and then strangled her.
Yeah, and judging by that newspaper, kind of guess what year we're going to.
I'm going to say like the 40s?
I'm going to say 56.
Sunday, February 21st, 1926.
Oh, wow.
Now, this was the Sunday when the paper came out, but this actually happened on Saturday. And according to her stepson, his foster mother, Clara, was cooking. She was actually cooking sausage, and the house was all...
Every time you say sausage now, with all of the cannibal cases that we've done recently, I'm like, oh, sausage.
What are you talking about?
The German story.
The Wiener Schnitzel.
Yeah. Oh, there was another one that I saw in Germany that got busted for cannibalism too.
Oh, yeah.
From that same website?
No, not the same website. Yeah, the same. Well, not the same website per se, but the same
premise.
On chat room, found someone that wants to be eaten. Kind of shit. I'm like, dude, is this just what Germany does nowadays?
We know that you're getting targeted that story because of
no,
what you did.
It was in the news. I mean, I look at all the murder stories anyway that come up.
True. We're concerned about the recommendations that we get.
Yeah, I look at all the murder stories coming up. But anyway, this is Sunday, February 21st. According to the stepson, his mama was cooking some sausages downstairs. Well, downstairs in the kitchen. The stepson, and his wife actually rented one of the rooms in this same apartment. They were downstairs as well. Now, he kept smelling the sausage being burnt in the kitchen, and he must have thought that, mom walked away for a minute and she'll be back. But an hour goes by, and literally the house almost burned down, smoke everywhere. He actually comes from the basement. I know this says comes out into the hallway, but he's in the basement. He's checking the boiler room. If you... Going back to that photo, you see the house has a downstairs basement. He comes back up the stairs, and this strange man is walking out. He's never seen this guy before, and he tells the stepson, hey, tell the landlady that I'll be back in an hour with my rent money, with the first month's rent, because I just rented the apartment. And then it was really weird. He got this weird vibe, and then he kind of runs out, scurries out, and then he's never seen again. This was around 1:30 p.m., and she actually takes him up to the attic room, which was a mistake,
Clearly.
as you'll see. Yeah.
That's like if you're ever showing a house, if you're renting out a room and you get a weird vibe from someone, and they ask you for, do you guys have any attic space or basement space? You'd be like, no.
You be going.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, sorry.
Well, if they got money, then what's it matter?
Because you have to be prepared for the worst.
I'll just use my biceps. What are you talking about? I'm just kidding. Women do have to think about that. This right here is a photo of Clara Newman right here. If you want to read this is from the Oakland Tribune.
Newman says that he greeted him and that the stranger replied,
tell the lady I'll be back in about an hour to rent the room.
And departed. After the elapse of an hour and a half, Newman declared that he became concerned regarding Miss Newman's whereabouts and that he searched the house, finding the woman's body in the attic bathroom.
Newman! Huh? Seinfeld? Yeah, All right, so Newman...
Sorry, this is kind of related. We were watching Criminal Minds the other night, and there was an episode with Jason Alexander. He played a serial killer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know what? I think what's that guy's name? Kramer?
Yeah.
I think he really screwed it up for everyone. I don't even want to watch that show anymore because of what he did. And I feel like a lot of other people...
What do you mean?
What'd he do?
The actor or the character?
The actor.
What did he do?
You didn't know? You don't know what he did?
No.
I can't see you. You haven't seen what he did?
No.
What did he do?
When he was doing that comedy show?
Should we talk about this later? What happened?
We can talk about it now.
What happened? What happened? Is it like recently or a couple years ago?
It was a few years ago, I think.
I feel like I am a version of Kramer, but now that we're talking about something that the actor did,
that is not good. You're
yeah,
like,
okay, so
I didn't watch enough Seinfeld to know it, but I would binge watch it, but apparently John wouldn't want to now.
I'll watch it with you.
No, you wouldn't want to watch it after this. Okay. So he was in the Laugh House or one of those comedy clubs, and someone was recording on their cell phone, and there was a heckler in the audience. And from what you can see on the cell phone footage, it's predominantly African-American audience.
Mm-hmm.
And someone's recording his cell phone. There's a heckler, and he just loses it on stage, and he starts screaming the N-word. He says, at the guy, he says, he's a knee, like he's a, and just screaming the N-word. And y'all haven't seen that?
No.
Holy Jesus. Let me pull up on iPad real quick.
Let's watch it later.
You'll never want to watch Seinfeld again because it's just so, I don't know, man. It's just so aggressive. Yeah. And someone filmed him doing
an aggressive
that.
I mean, that's not even a joke at that point. He's just being an asshole.
No, it's not. Yeah, it wasn't a joke.
It's not like
he was pissed because
Dave Chappelle using that word or anything
No, but it wasn't
that.
like that. The guy was heckling him, and it wasn't a joke. He was trying to be a dick. It was out of, no, it wasn't being a dick. It was out of anger and ignorance. I don't know. It was, it makes you feel sick to your stomach.
Yeah, that makes me upset.
You never saw that South Park?
Did they make fun of it on South Park?
Oh, yeah. This, when Randy goes, he's on, what is it, Wheel of Fortune, where the letters. And
Yeah.
And what did it say? What was the word? I can't remember. You haven't seen that?
No.
Oh, when it like spells.
Yeah. I can't remember.
Anywho's.
It was funny as hell. All right. Anyway, moving on. All right. So the description of the man from her stepson is he was about 30 years old, 5'7", dark complexion, dressed in an army shirt and civilian trousers. All right. So tonight we are talking about a serial killer. We are reading from the book Gorilla Killer by Ryan Green. Ryan Green is a true crime author, and I didn't really like his books at first, but actually it's kind of growing on me. He writes really short accounts, but I think they're really well written. So if you're a true crime reader, this book is only like 200 pages compared to some of the true crime books, which are like 600 pages. He doesn't just fill it with fact after fact after fact like some of these true crime writers does. He actually makes kind of a narration for it. So it's very interesting, and it's pretty entertaining. Not entertaining, but, well, yeah, entertaining, I guess what he wants. But anyway, so we are reading from the book Gorilla Killer from Ryan Green, a true story of betrayal, brutality, and butchery. So if you want to read this.
Claire was still lying there on the floor of the unlit boarding room, her exposed legs splayed out like a whore's, her cooling body turning gray, and rich dark bruises already blossoming around her throat. Merton was sick. The police were summoned.
All right, so why do you think he was called the Gorilla Killer?
I was just going to ask.
Because, like, he had gorilla-like strength, and because you were saying that, or because...
This is him right here.
Maybe.
Because he's hairy?
He's very hairy.
Is that why?
Yeah.
That's why they called him the gorilla.
There's a
combination of gender.
There's a couple things. Number one, he's very short and stocky, even though he doesn't really look that stocky here compared to those other guys. But
they put him up against one of the wrong people.
Well, those are I don't know who they are.
Police officers?
Yeah, but they're so much bigger than him. But he is a very stocky kind of guy, and he's very hairy. I'm talking about hair that comes down past your lapels.
Oh, like on your hands and your knuckles?
Yeah, hair on the back. Oh, dude. I remember when I was in the military, there were some dudes with so much hair on their back, it looked literally like a beast.
I'm very thankful that I don't have to shave your back.
Oh, God. Gross.
A lot of men have that problem.
The problem.
Or they're very hairy.
Yeah. I mean, I got hair where it counts. My butthole.
That's what everybody wants to hear.
This show is going downhill. All right, born May 12th, 1987. This is Earle Nelson, known as
1897?
1987. Born May 12th.
1897.
Oh, born May 12th, 1887. This is Earle Nelson, nicknamed the Gorilla Killer, but first he was nicknamed the Dark Strangler.
Oh.
Victims. How many victims does he have? Take a guess. He is a serial killer.
8.
5.
Nope. 22 to 25.
Whoa! That's unexpected.
25 victims in how long?
6 months.
6 months? Could you kill 25 people in 6 months?
You can do anything you want if you set your mind to it.
Nothing is impossible.
Yeah,
as
that's
Jen
right.
said
Yes,
earlier.
nothing's impossible.
In a period of 1 year, from 1926 to
Wow.
1927, he killed upwards of 25 people and probably a lot more.
Wow.
You know, he just never admitted it. But the locations was in the United States, and he was actually caught, which is going to blow your mind, because he crossed the border to Canada, and he only killed 2 people in Canada, and they caught him.
Good for you, Canada.
The Canadians. Can
Make
you
up for
freaking
it.
believe that? Holy shit.
I mean, they haven't necessarily had a problem with catching
Jesus
killers.
Christ.
It's the
Yeah,
sentencing.
again,
He kills 22 people in America, and the police here
Couldn't catch 'em.
can't even keep up with him. And then he goes to Canada, kills 2 people, and gets arrested. It's like, Jesus, man.
Well,
Anyway, here he is as a child.
Oh,
Look at that hair.
long hair.
It's like a rock star. Is that hair? Or like a
yeah.
fur? Jesus.
It looks like hair.
Yeah, so go to talkmurder.com if you want to see him at age 3 and tell me if that's hair or not. I think it might be a fur jacket or something.
No.
That's his hair.
Mhm.
All right, so I believe that serial killers are mostly made product of their environment, and this may strengthen my argument here.
He got a shitty childhood, didn't he?
As I said, he was born on May 12th, 1887 to Francis Nelson and James Ferrell, Ferral, not Ferral.
Got it.
Or Ferrel.
Yeah. James, his father was a Spanish immigrant, which caused immediate backlash with Francis's mother, the grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
his grandmother, because this household is devoutly not Christian, more
Jewish?
crazy than that, Pentecostal.
Oh.
Ooh.
You
This
said,
is-
I thought Pentecostals were Christians, though.
No, they
They
are,
are.
but they're like the.
They're the ones that speak in tongues.
Wait, that was like Arabic.
Ay, ay, ay.
Oh no!
That was definitely in a Family Guy, I think, that we just watched.
No, Pentecostals are the ones that speak in tongues. So they, they get all hyped up and they fall on the ground and start speaking in tongues, which, we have some Pentecostals listening. I probably should say something nice.
I knew someone, I knew a couple people in my life who were Pentecostal. One was I went to high school with. One of the smartest people I've ever met. She was super awesome. But I also, my mom's friend's brother's family, she wouldn't cut her hair.
Yeah.
And so her hair was down to her knees, and they wouldn't cut it because they believed there were angels lived in their hair, and she wouldn't wear only long skirts and stuff like that. She wouldn't show her ankles. Super nice lady. But yeah, I just remember her hair was so long. It was how do you not trip over it at that point? Man.
Well, you don't want to cut them angels in half.
Exactly. But man, that would be a bummer. Just trying to get out of bed.
Yeah, Pentecostals are. I'm Southern Baptist, so I can't really. We're crazy too, but we're not as crazy as Pentecostals. Definitely not. We're
It's
just
all
more
relative.
We're just more moody. Southern Baptists are really moody.
Well, we're just gonna burn in hell for anything that we do.
We're like, we can't. Nah, don't do that. Don't do that. Let's all be nice.
It's very
stuff.
judgy.
Yeah, very judgy, and we're very moody. I remember our church our church specifically, when I was growing up, got Marilyn Manson banned from coming to South Carolina. He was banned by the church.
Yeah,
shit.
I feel like that's overstepping.
I remember my preacher was like, mothers and fathers out there, there's a devilish band out now that you need to protect your children from. The Satan band, is known as 311. I was like, what?
Whoa.
I was like,
Amber is the color of energy.
I was like, how is that satanic? Holy shit.
Man, that amber energy, man. It's dangerous.
There's plenty that people can say about Catholicism, so I'm not even going to go
Oh,
down that
hell
road.
yeah.
Oh, no.
We be cray.
What are you talking about? Kids. Wait, I didn't mean kids. I meant, well, yeah, kids. I mean, you guys do have a problem with that. All right. Okay, I'm moving on before we lose subscribers.
Judge lest ye be judged.
Holy shit, that was in this book, actually. That same quote. I was going to put it in here.
That's
nice.
too funny.
All right, let me move on. So, as I said, he was born May 12th, 1987, to Francis Nelson and James Farrell. He was a Spanish immigrant. And let me show you on Google Earth here where Mr. Earle Nelson, the gorilla killer, was raised. So if you're on YouTube, you can see on Google Earth. So you see, this is the first murder here, Clara Newman. And that was the first one he did. So it was, I probably should have mentioned, I don't know why I mentioned, when they found her corpse, he didn't just kill her, he raped her.
Oh.
As with every woman in the story, but it's post-mortem, it's after death.
Oh.
Yeah, so I need to mention that. But this was I shouldn't say not as bad, not as aggressive as what they are going to be. And the reason I wanted to start with the first murder is because you can actually see the escalation of force that he uses when he, gets better at what he's doing. Anyway, this is where Earle Nelson is raised, right here.
I'm not sure if better is the right word.
No, he gets better. He gets better at what he's doing. Yeah, this is a job for these people. It literally was his job, and I'll tell you why.
So this is very close by.
Very close by. Yeah, that's why I want to show you. Here's the street view. This is actually where he was born and raised.
I do have a question though about the houses, like one of the ones that Clara had. They're very narrow, so are they long?
I think so.
Yeah, they're all like.
I guess it's kind of like a brownstone in New York or in Boston.
Or
like they're not
like the Charleston houses are very
yeah.
Yeah, they're very put together, but there are multiple people per house. Like where he was raised, it was an apartment boarding house. So this is and I'm gonna get into his MO here in a little bit, but he targeted boarding houses specifically. So any place that was looking to rent a room, that was his MO. So, and it's probably because that's what he grew up in, and he kind of knows the layout. He knows there's usually an attic apartment. Like in the first murder that we talked about, Clara Newman, he was actually inquiring about the attic apartment.
Right.
The very top, you can see a little window above the attic apartment there. That's what he was inquiring about. But that's where he was born and raised. On the playground, spend most of my days. And you see, it's pretty close.
Oh, yeah.
To the first murder, and this is California right here. I think I'm all backwards.
Yep.
His father, James, was not only an alcoholic and a cheater, but also an addict, a drug addict. And if you want to read this is how he was born. This is how the gorilla killer Earle Nelson was born into this beautiful world.
The baby had to force his way out through a crown of warts.
Oh.
Ugh.
TMI.
Yeah, I didn't need to know that.
Wow. Sores were open all around her vulva, leaking clear fluid onto the baby's head as he was trying to pass out.
Jen, you drive a Volvo, don't you?
No. The woman had syphilis, and
Sometimes.
judging by the roaring fever and the rash on her soles and palms, it was an advanced stage.
Can you imagine like coming in this world like, whoa, what's all this stuff? And like a pus just.
Nope.
No.
No. Stop.
No, we don't need. No.
No.
What do you mean? Hey, you don't get mad at me. Get mad at this guy, Ryan Green. He wrote the book.
Yeah. Why? Excuse me, Mr. Green. Why is it important that we know that? I mean, very descriptive, and you're a very descriptive writer, but we don't need to know that particular part. Like, I didn't need that on my Sunday evening.
I mean, there's plenty of other descriptions I could put in there. To be honest.
So, like, did she contract something from the husband since he was
They both had syphilis, advanced stages of it. I don't know if when do they cure syphilis? Not cure it, but I mean, it can be controlled. Well, no, I think it can be cured. We need to ask Will.
I don't know. I don't have syphilis.
Yeah, syphilis, I'm pretty sure, is a bacteria.
I am not sure.
So I'm pretty sure they can control it. Or not. No, a bacteria, they can cure it. I'm pretty positive. I remember Will telling me something about that. So
all right, we'll have to get Will on this one.
Either the cure for syphilis hasn't been invented, which I kind of think may be, because they invent these medicines for our soldiers who go around and,
Do whatever.
And then they bring a bunch of STDs back to America or whatever. And so, anyway, I think I don't know if it has been invented yet. But anyway, she had advanced syphilis, which it's like a bacteria that attacks your brain and makes you crazy, like insane.
Oh.
It destroys your brain. It makes you crazy. Yeah. Oh. So you see a lot of people with syphilis, they go to the mental institutions because they're literally insane. It messes with your brain.
Interesting. His
father died when he was also very, very young, and he died literally in a gutter. He died. The dad, yeah. Oof. The mother didn't really care or notice that the father wasn't coming back. I mean, she was kind of pissed that some of her alcohol money, now more of her alcohol money had to go to the baby, which she barely fed anyway. She eventually dies as well. So his mother and father, if you want to read this.
How old was he when she died?
Very young. I want to say I couldn't really find an exact date, but I want to say 8 or 9.
Oh, so he was an orphan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was an orphan. So he lost both of his parents right back to back from having syphilis. Yeah.
When Frances died, it was quieter. She was still secluded away in her flea trap apartment, still feeding her baby whenever some kind of soul tossed a coin her way, still flinching away from every knock at the door since she was months behind on rent. Her face was being eaten away by bacteria. Her nose was almost gone. Her palms were covered in pustules, and she smeared the baby swaddling with it every time she lifted him from his cot.
I'm glad we ate brunch before we recorded this.
Like way before.
See, like that, as disgusting as it is, I am more okay with reading than the previous statement.
Where he was like crowning.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't need...
God, can you... You were watching way too much Family Guy.
Oh, man. Oh, but it's like eating at her face and...
Yeah, syphilis does it. It's a bacteria, so it
isn't meningitis a bacteria too? And that I think does your brain? Is that bad?
I'm sure it's bad. I mean, yeah.
It's not good.
That's not what I meant. I know it's bad. I meant, is it similar? I don't know.
But meningitis is not a sexually transmitted disease.
Correct.
Is it the spinal thing?
I think so.
Yeah.
All right, so his father died when he was very young. The father worked at odd jobs, and he died in the gutter at the docks. So you saw we're in the Bay Area. He was at the docks when he died.
Like in Les Mis.
Carried to a pauper's grave, and then he gets raised by his grandmother. Now, the grandmother is the one that instills all the religious fervor into Earle Nelson, the guerrilla killer. Because the father... I mean, he was probably most likely Catholic. I mean, he's Spanish, but he didn't really have that religious kind of oomph that the grandma has. And as you'll see, Earle Nelson is devoutly religious. When he's killing his numerous victims, he's doing it while reciting the Book of Revelations.
Isn't that fascinating how he can be so religious and yet, like, one of the 10 Commandments is thou shalt not kill.
Well, that's subjective.
No, he's picking and choosing.
All right. So,
Yeah, that's a good point.
So we'll talk a little bit about his background here in a second, but I want to go back to Google Earth so we can talk about the next murder. This is the very next murder too. So we are going to San Jose in this situation. You see he's right down the road. He'll eventually move all across the nation, which I'll get to.
He goes to Canada.
He goes to New York, Detroit, Portland.
Oh, okay.
Kansas.
Well, if he was all in one area, maybe we could have caught him.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
No, probably not. We didn't really care.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
In the first murder, he told Clara that he was renting for his wife and kid, but like, did he have a family at that point or no?
Who?
The gorilla killer.
No.
It was just part of his...
just a lie. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He was married once, which I'll kind of talk about, but no kids ever, nothing, just him, and that was a lie to get into the apartment. What you read now is from the Stockton Independent, March 3rd, 1926. If you want to read this, Naquiz.
Woman found strangled in San Jose home.
Oh, that was it. The husband goes home. He finds his apartment door open. He returns home at 6 p.m. Now, before that, he's out eating with his wife. At like 1 o'clock is when they split up. They were eating some, what did we just eat? I'm trying to think.
Eggs.
Oh, that's boring. He was eating...
Breakfast sandwich.
Yeah, so he was eating brunch with his wife around 1 o'clock. She says, honey, I'm going to go and do some shopping. We need some stuff for the house. They own the apartment, the Deer Park apartment here in San Jose, and she's going to do some shopping, maybe, splurge on herself a little bit, and then come home. They're going to have dinner. He gets home at 6 when they're supposed to reconvene, and he finds his apartment door unlocked, and he walks in. Now, it takes a few hours for him to find his wife because she's actually in the vacant apartment that they've been trying to rent. And actually, one of the other tenants said, hey, maybe we should check in the empty apartment and see maybe she's in there or something. So they did, and I'll talk about that now. So,
strangled to death with a silk cord belt from her dress, the lifeless body of Mrs. Laura E. Beale, 65, wife of Harvey J. Beale, owner of the Deer Park Apartments of San Jose, was found tonight on a bed in the vacant apartment of the building. The cord had been wrapped tightly twice around the neck and tied, then wrapped twice again and tied a second time.
So what they don't mention here is he raped her post-mortem like he does all the other murder victims, and which we'll talk about. One of the reasons he's called the gorilla killer is because when people do hear him in the act, he's always grunting.
That sounds more like a dog.
Yeah.
Well, like a kind of thing.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so let me talk about the MO so far, and we don't know much yet, but older women. Why do you think he chooses older women? Take a guess.
Easier to kill.
No, that's not it at all.
They remind him of his mother?
His grandmother.
Oh.
Grandmother. Now, he will go to younger women, and we'll talk about that in a second. He chooses empty apartments, so we're still talking about the MO here. Empty apartments with for rent signs on them only. That's his only...
That's how he gets in.
That's how he gets in. He strangles, and this one is the first one he does with a garrote, a whatever. And from the first one he didn't, but the second murder he'll use some kind of garrote the entire time, whether it's a cord, a piece of nylon, or a towel, whatever. He doesn't use his hands, which he definitely could because they're literally gorilla hands, which I'll show you in a second, because they actually take a picture of his hands. They're freaking huge. But he decides to use some sort of strangle device from now on. He always rapes the corpse post-mortem, so he kills him first. And do you want to guess why? And I haven't really talked about his religious fervor yet, but it's something to do with that.
Because it's not considered a sin if you're having a relations with a dead person?
Well, it's more because...
I mean, I feel like that would still be considered a sin, but I'm asking about in his mind, maybe?
Well, it's more of a judgment thing. So if they're dead, they're not going to judge them, you know? Because he...
Judge his victim.
His victim is not going to judge him for
God
doing
still
his devilish acts of intercourse.
So they won't judge him for having intercourse with them, but they could still judge him for killing them.
Well, so he thinks intercourse is
worse
the
than
devil's
killing?
work. Yeah, as you'll see.
Huh.
So
He thinks that's worse than killing.
the bodies were not cleaned up. They were not, you know how some killers we talked about will cover the victim back up with a blanket or do something, not trying to hide the body, but to just, you will just instinctively put the covers over them or maybe put a pillow under their neck or something. He didn't do that with these victims. Do you want to try to guess why he didn't do that?
I don't know.
I'm at a loss with this guy. Every time I try to guess something.
Yeah, we didn't really go into the background yet, but we will. The reason he did that is because he has no remorse. So if you think of even like the Golden State Killer.
Which you would think he would if he's so religious. You'd think he would be like almost ashamed of what
Not
he
if
does.
he thinks these women are harlots.
They only have a for rent sign on.
They're older ladies.
It doesn't matter. So we'll talk about this here in a second, but when he gets caught, it means like a couple times he does get busted and he runs away. That means God didn't want him to do that. But when he gets away with the murder, the crime, that meant God wanted him to do that. Does that make sense?
Okay,
So,
okay.
But they're usually the reason that the bodies aren't covered up or made less, hideous, if you will, is because the killer has some sort of remorse. So even like the Golden State Killer, he would cover the victims up, at least put a blanket over them. But this guy didn't, which means he has absolutely no remorse because these killers do feel bad a little bit. There's some part of them that feels a little bad. So they do something, which may be just putting their head on a pillow or something. This guy didn't do nothing, which means that he literally has no remorse for what he's doing. Now, he also makes a lot of the women look up. He actually perfects his technique over 25 kills. He will go into the boarding house and kind of study the architecture, and then he'll kind of look up and be like, oh, is that Italian trim? Or was it Italian marble or what? I don't know, on the ceiling. Italian architecture. And then as soon as they look up, they expose their neck, and that's when he'll go in with his hands. But usually he'll go in with his hands first, choke them a little bit, and then take whatever he can find, a towel or something. But he always makes them look up first. And I think that is a lot to do with him feeling shameful as well. He doesn't
want them to look at him.
He doesn't want them to look at him, and he kills them really quickly. Really quickly. I mean, they're dead within a few seconds. I mean, he chokes them out. So I think it is more of a shame thing, but it's interesting to know, because if you see a lot of the wildlife tapes, like in National Geographic, a lot of the animals, they always cover their neck, and like even your dog will do it too. Like they don't want to expose their neck because that's
jugular.
The jugular, that's the place that could kill you. So anyway, it's kind of interesting because he'll look up and kind of instinctively make the housemaid look up too, and then that exposes that neck region. And as soon as he sees it, he goes in for the kill. That's kind of his MO. And it'll make more sense here in a minute. And he always targets apartment owners. That's all he targets in the whole thing. Someone that is renting the apartments and has a vacant listing. All right, if you want to read this, he eventually got the name the Dark Strangler. This is before people really saw him and could identify him and could give the police a description. So they just saw he was a dark, kind of complexion man, and he was always in the dark too. He kind of like always, even though it was in broad daylight, he would kind of, when he left, he kind of went in the alleyways, into the shaded alleyways. If you want to read this headline here.
Dark Strangler still at large. Oakland woman is attacked.
He actually made a few mistakes. And a couple times he was spotted and he didn't kill the victims. And those victims got a good look at him and could describe him to police. And this is when he started being known as the gorilla killer. Now, this wasn't big news for whatever reason. Well, I know what reason. It's because we're at war. This is, the time of the First World War. And a serial killer roaming California wasn't really, the most important thing to talk about during the time, I guess. But people started saying that he looked like a gorilla, and there was a lot of cartoon jokes in newspapers. I couldn't find one through my research, but apparently there were a lot of, those Far Side jokes with like a gorilla strangling a woman or something. And they actually thought at one point there was a paper that put out that it may have been an actual gorilla that escaped the zoo. Which is completely
That
stupid.
reporter should have done a little bit more homework.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So let me talk about his childhood a little bit.
I feel like there'd be more feces at the scene.
Oh, yeah. I have a Giphy of a gorilla throwing some feces. I'll show you in a second.
Oh, wow.
So let me talk a
Great.
little bit about his childhood. Maybe this makes sense to you. The grandmother takes charge. She's extremely, extremely Pentecostal. It actually takes a few years for him to learn how to walk. How long does it take you to learn? I think it took me till I was like 5 or 6. That's my ABCs.
I sure hope not. I think you walk around like a year, something like that.
It took him till he was like 3 or 4 to walk. But he was walking before that, but he was on all fours like a gorilla. Okay.
Well, that's called crawling, and that's what
No,
most
but
babies do.
not crawling. I'm talking about like walking on all fours like a gorilla, like hands in front of the feet type of walking.
Okay.
His grandmother didn't care about him at all. You guys understand this? Like, she barely fed him. Okay. I mean, because in her mind, this is the spawn of her daughter, which was, infested with Satan. And then this came out
AKA
of Satan's
syphilis.
warts, This was
She's
Satan.
not pleased.
Yeah,
But this is now her thing.
Exactly. And he would also grunt.
You would think, though, that a religious person would be like more welcoming and kinder about the situation.
Oh, yeah? What religion is that?
Just an assumption, I suppose.
Jesus Christ. Am I right?
Oh, no.
Maybe the Buddhist.
Yeah, Buddhist people are always pretty chill, aren't they?
I don't know. Okay, so this guy, he probably had a mental disorder. And the reason I say that is because it took him forever to learn how to walk.
I mean, it may not have been a mental disorder, but it could have been genuinely how he was raised.
No, he would sit at the table. He wouldn't eat with a fork like a regular person, a regular kid. He would eat with his mouth.
Well, we all eat with our mouths.
No, he would put his mouth on the food and eat like a dog.
Oh.
He would grunt at the table. He couldn't speak for a few years. And he was just very...
Well, it sounds like he had some sort of developmental disorder that was undiagnosed.
But he was forced and eventually could recite every word of Revelations, the book of Revelations.
At the same time that he couldn't speak otherwise?
Why would you want to say anything if it's not part of the book of Revelations? That's what I'm trying to say. This whole family was extremely religious. Extremely. And
yeah, but you could still be religious and like teach your child how to talk.
Okay.
Agreed.
I mean, I'm sure, but I mean, yeah, tell her that.
Well, it's a little late for that.
Yeah.
I mean, he came out of a wart-infested
know. We're
vagina.
gonna
revisit that.
Okay, I'm just saying. They didn't really care about his kid at all. He's
That's
just
a parent.
No, they were not parents to him.
When he did go to school, he would recite fire and brimstone passages. He wasn't
made a lot of friends.
He wasn't bullied because he was pretty stocky as a kid. And he was also an animal abuser. He would take little birds out of their nests and throw them in front of trains.
Oh my God.
He would also play chicken with trains, and he wasn't afraid of death, which is going to come into play. He would see how long it takes for him to be able to jump out of the way of a train. And around this time, he had what a lot of serial killers have, as we talked about, his first head injury. His uncle had bought him a bicycle, and since he's not afraid of death, he would ride around extremely fast through town, jumping stuff, doing kick flips, all kinds of stuff 360 backside lop slides, all kinds of stuff. He would go as fast as he could, and one day he got his wheel stuck in the tracks of a streetcar, because they have streetcars in California, and he was actually hit by that car. Straight on hit by the car. If you want to read this is from the book.
A hole had been punched through his temple by the metal of the streetcar, and while he was still speaking and his eyes were still open, no part of his speech could be understood. It was as though he was suffering a biblical affliction. He spasmed and twitched and spoke in tongues. So it went through his, like, not out the other side.
No, not out the other side, but it penetrated his brain. And from then on, he's going to have constant headaches. He didn't even remember owning a bike after that. He's like, what happened?
That's a severe
injury. What bike? I had a bike? What the fuck? Where's my bike? He didn't remember his name or who he was.
How old did you say he was when this happened?
He was, I think, like
well before he started killing.
Yeah, this is like 10 or 11.
After his parents died, though.
Yeah, he started to wet the bed, which his grandmother beat him severely for.
Does he light things on fire? Because that's the McDonald triad right there.
He became really violent and would randomly faint. And throughout his entire life growing up. After this, he was in a coma for 6 days. His grandma threw him up in the attic, didn't give him any food, didn't give him any water, didn't bathe him or anything. He was in a coma. He came down encrusted in his own spit, sweat, and excrement. He walks downstairs. The grandmother yells at him after waking up from a 6-day coma, throws him outside in the mud, and turns on the hose and hoses him down.
I can't say I wouldn't hose somebody down if they were covered in that.
Not only did he have constant headaches and memory loss, but very important to this story, right after this accident, the 6 days later after he woke up, this changed as well. If you want to read this.
He masturbated compulsively, day after day, night after night. Jenny would try to catch him in the act so she could lambaste him and shame him properly, but he became entirely too clever for her liking.
So Jenny is the grandmother. Living in the same house with Earle was his aunt, so his mom's sister. There you go. Mom's sister. So yeah, the grandmother's child. Yeah. So the grandmother had 2 childs of her own living in the house. Earle's aunt, which was 10 years older than him, and Earle's uncle, which was also 10 years older. The uncle's who bought him the bike. So they're 10 years his senior. But this is important because around this time, while the aunt was 18 to 20 years old, he started sneaking through the house at 2, 3 in the morning and trying to see her like undress, take a shower.
Oh, no. No.
So very incestual thoughts. This was her Aunt Lillian. Also, I want to say after the accident, he couldn't stand bright lights at all, which is why he kind of stood in the shadows a bunch and why he'll spend most of his time in the basement. Aunt Lillian. He started to peep on her while she was undressing, and his grandmother started trying to catch him doing it because that's against the Bible. You can't do that. God would not like that. He's not cool with that, yo.
No, he would not.
He would not like that. You're going to go to hell for that. So she started trying to catch him, but every time she would like open the door really fast, think he's masturbating, he'd be reciting one of the Bible verses or something. She could never really catch him doing the deed. And she never really caught him peeping in on his aunt. But eventually, she started realizing that he wasn't peeping in on his aunt anymore. He was peeping in on her, his grandmother, when she would take a shower and all this stuff. And she got really worried and scared, like just terrified that this kid
Don't blame her.
was very violent at the time and just a train wreck. She got worried that he would do something. So she started carrying keys and locks in the house. Every time she went and take a pee-pee in the toilet, she would lock the door behind her and stuff like that. And she was terrified. When Earle Nelson is 14, the grandmother slips and falls in the bathtub. And she was so terrified that he would run in there and rape her, that she didn't even call for help. She sat there for about 2 days and developed a strong case of pneumonia and died soon after because of the fall in the bathtub. I mean, she couldn't even get out of the water because she was so terrified that he would come in there and rape her. And he was 14 at the time.
That's scary.
Also around this time, when he was 14 or 15, he loses his virginity to a local prostitute. The blind trust that he had placed in his replacement mother figure was dead and gone, and she began to suspect that his collision with the streetcar had knocked the Lord's presence clean out of his head, and that a demon had crawled inside the hole that was left where he lay, indolent and the slothful in his den of filth. So around 15, he loses his virginity to a prostitute. This is around the Barbary Coast in California. And he was having sex with prostitutes until they weren't willing to have sex with him anymore because, as the book says, he had on his body, quote, pus drooling out of open sores on his genitals. So no prostitute would sleep with him anymore. And that's primarily why he left town.
Oh, I mean, I think it's safe to say that no one in any town would be willing to have sex with him.
Yeah, once he dropped trowel, it's all over.
Well, This is, if you want to read this is also from the book. This is kind of how he would have sex with the prostitutes. This is kind of his aggression.
I might need that water that you have over there to cleanse this palate. In the sweat-stained back room of a brothel, Earle Nelson had sex for the first time in his life. His huge hands clamped down on the withered shoulders of the aging whore, grinding her bones with every thrust of his hips, making her weep and struggle against him when, even just after he reached his completion, he just wouldn't stop, hammering on and on, eyes rolled up into his head, hallelujah on his lips from start to finish.
He really is a descriptive writer. It's
Yeah,
like
he's pretty good.
the worst form of erotica.
I know. That's the thing about this writer, and a couple more like him. They make it pretty, I would say, more entertaining to read. It's more like a National Enquirer type of thing. And he's a good writer, I'm saying. But
Scandalous.
So you either read true crime to get all the facts, or you read it to be entertained. Overall, you read it to be entertained. But so you can either read like a Greg Olson book that's 600 freaking pages and will tell you everything about everything, just fill your head with all this knowledge that doesn't even, you know what I'm saying? Or you can read this guy that does more of a descriptive narration style. And
I feel like I'm there. That's for sure.
Yeah, so this is him right here, Earle Nelson. This is when he was 18. This is after his first arrest. He looks all beat up.
He looks older than 18.
This is what he pretty much...
Looks a lot older than 18.
Well, yeah, he had a tough life. This is pretty much what he looks like. I'm putting this photo on talkmurder.com, so be sure to go there. Now, so during this whole time of killing, he kills 25. How do you think he moved around and got away with these murders? I mean, he just jump in a cab? He didn't have any money to get a car.
Did he hitchhike?
No, he didn't hitchhike. So he would move...
Did he work on the railroad?
So he would move from city to city, and he would ride trains. And back in the day, there was a subculture. In the 1920s, there was a subculture of hobos riding trains that hated people living in actual homes, landlords and all this stuff, because they're homeless, riding trains everywhere. So he kind of hid behind this subculture. And even though these hobos, these train riders, knew that he was the killer he was, they didn't turn him in. He was almost guarded by these hobos, because he was kind of representing them, getting back at society. Oh, look at society. Everyone is now living in their own home and doing well. I mean, this is right after the Great Depression and all this stuff. I mean, during the Great Depression, everyone's sucking, and now this guy is killing a bunch of landladies. You know, he's almost like a hero in some weird way.
Yeah, but that's interesting, though, that they would view him that way, because if he's targeting landladies or people that are willing to rent out a home to someone, to provide a home for someone.
But these are also homeless people that are drug addicts. They don't really think too in depth about it. You know what I'm saying? You got to keep that in mind. So he would use trains to go from cabin to cabin. And before he even started murdering, he would stay in these cabins. And that's kind of how he lived. So any empty cabin he could find in the woods would be preferable. You know, a summer cabin or whatever, he would go and steal all the stuff, get a few nights of sleep, and then be in the next town. Now, this is when he got arrested for the first time because he was caught trying to do this, trying to sleep in a cabin. This is before any of the murders. Now, he leaves prison in September 6, 1916. He is 19 years old. He joins the military 4 times. He joins the Army twice under different pseudonyms, and he also joins the Navy twice under different pseudonyms. He deserts all 4 times, and you know, during this time they would take anyone because the war machine is starting up, so they wanted to take anyone.
So I mean, he deserted all 4 times, but why did he join? To get like steady meals, or
yeah, steady meals. I mean, he actually preferred to be in prison because, you know, 3 hots and a cot type of thing.
3 hots and a cot. I have not heard that one. Should I have?
I haven't heard it.
That's
if
cute.
you're a man in the military.
3 hots and a cot?
In 1918, the Navy sent him for a mental exam at Napa State Mental Hospital because he was obviously, something was wrong with him.
Well.
Number one, he had syphilis since he was a child. And if you don't treat that, that's going to fuck your brain all up. Plus, he had some other disorders.
He had that thing that went through his head.
Yeah, that. He had some other disorder. I mean, this guy was really not stable. And everyone, his bunkmates and everything else was scared of him. He would just randomly recite Bible verses, and he just wasn't there.
The bejesus out of me if I was sitting next to this guy and he was like, all right, you could already tell he was not right, and then just started saying revelations of all books, like about the end of times coming. I'd be like, oh my God.
Well, they are coming.
He almost looks like a young Nicolas Cage.
I was thinking that, like, I couldn't put my name on the who, but I was like, he does have quite the chiseled jaw in
He's
that photo.
probably a better actor as well. Oh shit, I hope he doesn't listen to this.
Nicolas Cage, don't sue us.
Don't sue us. I love half of your movies.
We should do a Nicolas Cage binge watching.
There's a bunch of Nicolas Cage podcasts out there devoted to Nicolas Cage.
I'm not surprised.
I don't understand what the subculture of him is. Like
that he's a terrible
because he's
actor.
the best, worst. No, he's sometimes a really good actor, and sometimes he's just like, wow.
I haven't seen enough of his movies, I think. I've seen...
Oh, like Face Off, Con Air.
Haven't seen that.
Those are great movies.
I heard Face Off is good. I want to watch that.
I could eat a peach for hours.
Alcatraz one?
Yeah, like all those...
The Rock. I saw that.
Yeah.
I saw Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah, like all those are great.
I saw National Treasure.
Yeah, like all those are great. But then he makes like Ghost Rider.
So. Never seen
and
that.
Stuff that is just awful. And he made that one that was
what did we just watch with him? It's now on Amazon.
Oh yeah, even that movie sucked. Look how big your hands are on the screen, Jen. People are
Gorilla
like,
hands.
Good Lord.
They turn into sausages when...
All right.
Sausages.
In 1918, the Navy sent him for a mental exam at Napa State Mental Hospital. The blood test revealed he had multiple STDs.
Multiple.
He escaped the mental hospital, but they didn't look for him because he was, from the report, was, quote, not violent, homicidal, or destructive.
Well,
I'd
say that's probably not correct.
He actually got married. At one point, he turned his life around. This is before all the murders. Literally, he just completely turned his life around. And what happened was the mental hospital had given him a drug for his syphilis. And like I said, syphilis attacks your brain and makes you all crazy. It started to go in remission, but it wasn't all cured yet. Then he escapes, and he's actually living a normal life until it comes back, obviously. But he was a janitor working at the St. Mary's Hospital. His name then was Evan Lewis Fuller. He gave his future wife a fake name.
I thought you were going to say he gave his future wife syphilis.
Well, yeah,
he
that
probably
too.
gave that to her too. Yeah.
He married an older lady, Mary Martin. She was 58 years old.
And he was how old?
22.
Age is just a figment of your mind. It's a mind state.
I was going to say, wasn't the song Age is Nothing But a Number? That was an R. Kelly song. And for him, sorry, R. Kelly, age is something that you should follow for statutory rape rules. And
well, yeah,
also,
but anything beyond that, it doesn't really matter.
I know, but it was an R. Kelly song.
Well, yeah, but.
All right, so.
I wish somebody else sang Ignition remix.
Usher sings that.
No, it's R. Kelly.
It's R.
Whatever.
Kelly.
All right, if you want to read this is from the book. This is about his wife that he just married.
He treated her like she was his whore, doing whatever he pleased with her body while she lay there too mortified to object. In the light of day, Evan seemed to be himself once more, kind and clever, soft as cotton wool when he placed a delicate kiss on her cheek, as though he had not spent hours desecrating her flesh throughout the night.
So he had some kinks.
Ooh, man. Hot diggity dog. Can I just say, so that's his picture again on the cover of that?
Yeah.
He did not age well. Syphilis did not do good things for him.
Well, also he's like he's all hairy, and he grunts like a gorilla, like ooh, ooh, ah, like while he's having sex, and he's throwing his poopy at you. It's like a bunch of shit. Well, I made that last part up, but like, I mean, think about this gorilla just on top of you. Holy titties! All right, 5 months after the marriage, something happened. Everything was going great. His wife, even though he's desecrating her corpse. Or not her corpse, but her body.
He's raping her.
He's raping her. Whatever. Like, I can put up with that type of shit. That's what she was thinking.
Oh.
It was still good. I mean, she's a 58-year-old woman. She's probably going to find nothing better. I'm just saying she's, older.
Wasn't marital rape also not considered a crime up until, in the last, 10 years or something like that? I don't know.
But, so she really was just going to put up with it. But 5 months later, something happened.
He killed her?
No, he didn't. He never killed her.
Oh.
He fell off a ladder at his job, and it fell right on his noggin.
Oh, so that didn't reset anything. It's like not another teen movie when it's like how many concussions does Billy Bob have?
Oh my gosh, that's such a great movie.
It completely reset everything. He didn't even know who she was. And now he's back to Earle instead of Evan. He doesn't know who she is, what he's doing. What am I doing in this janitor's outfit? He is completely back to the way he was, but 10 times worse. Now he's going to become the killer.
Oh.
It completely changed overnight. He fell, hit his head, and it's just boom. Completely a different guy. So, and she got weirded out because it was like this guy didn't even know her anymore. And not only that, he wasn't calling himself Evan. He was calling himself Earle. And she's like, who the shit is Earle? The fuck is Earle?
That's a great show.
Never seen it.
It's a good one.
I used to have a crush on the blonde. Can't remember her name.
Jamie Presley?
No, her in the show. It's like Candy or something.
No.
If you want to read this is from August 16th, 1926, from the Oakland Tribune.
New clues spur search for Slayer. Smiling stranger sighted at death scene by mail carrier is haunted as strangler of Oakland woman.
So now he's in Oakland. He's killing. This is the 5th murder victim, Mary Nisbet. That's her right there. Go to talkmurder.com. I'll put that photo on there for you guys. If you want to describe her, she's older.
Very dark hair.
What do you think she does for a living?
Seamstress.
No, Jen, she's the apartment owner.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Well, maybe she does something else during the day. I don't know.
Maybe being a landlady was her side hustle. What do I know?
All right. If you want to read this is from the book.
Her head had been slammed into the walls and floor of the bathroom with such force that every tooth in her mouth had been knocked out.
Ooh.
They lay scattered across the floor amidst the smears of blood. The blood itself was everywhere. splattered across the fixtures and up the walls. The biggest pool was, of course, down the side of the toilet itself, where the broken and raped body of Mary Nisbet had been stuffed with such force that both of her hip joints and shoulders were dislocated.
Oh, dear.
Did he try to stuff her down the toilet?
Yeah, so he starts to stuff these ladies anywhere he could. One victim, he went up to the attic and stuffed her in some luggage, because it reminded him of her aunt. And he felt guilty because he felt like he just raped and killed his aunt. So he stuffed her in a suitcase, threw her in the attic. And this particular one, he would stuff the women through the wedges of a toilet in the bathtub. But it's not like to hide it. It's just like, why would you stuff it in there? In fact, the American police, and it's kind of crazy saying that Canadians did better than us, but they actually try to push all these off as...
credit where credit is due.
They try to push all these off as suicides. Like Mary Nisbet, she actually died of asphyxiation. But okay, she died of asphyxiation. Maybe she choked herself. Okay, that makes sense.
No,
but
still doesn't.
Well, yeah, maybe. She could hang herself. That makes sense. And stuff herself in...
After she hung herself.
The side of the toilet. That makes sense. But let's explain the post-mortem rape. Let's see.
Oh, my God.
Maybe someone came in there, pulled her out of the crevice she was stuffed in, raped her, and then threw her back in there? No, come on. The police did that because they didn't want a big public outrage. But you got one. The nation was worried about this, and not really worried because it didn't happen locally in a localized same spot. I mean, he traveled city to city to city. So by the time everyone got their stories together, then they realized, wait, this guy is a traveling serial killer kind of thing. And now he's escalating, I should say. He kills a 23-year-old. This is one of the youngest he kills. Her name is Bonnie Pace. She is from Kansas City, Missouri. So he's in Kansas. He's riding the trains.
He's in Missouri.
Yeah, so he's riding the trains through the train network and not buying a ticket, because the police would be at the trains looking for this ape man. He would just, jump on the back of the trains and kind of ride with the hobos, and he would fit in because, you saw a picture of him. He's a freaking hobo. He looks like a hobo. The next day after Bonnie Pace, it was Germania Harpin. He dragged her to bed and then raped her corpse. So this is one I got to talk about. I don't really want to, but
oh no. Mm-mm.
So this is Germaine and her husband. A photo from the newspaper there, and the 8-month-old baby Robert. So this is what happened with them. It's very tragic, but it does ramp up the nation to be like, wait, we got to catch this dude now, because he didn't have to do this. If you want to read this.
He screamed and he screamed as Earle removed the baby's cloth diaper, twisted it into a garrote, and he looped it around Robert's tiny pink neck. Just a tug would have been sufficient to end it all, but instead Earle tightened the terry cloth slowly, cutting off the baby's screams, then the baby's breath.
So he did this after he raped the mother and her corpse. He didn't have to. The baby was just crying, and he just did it. I don't know. So he is obviously needs to be stopped. And by then he has traveled from California to Portland to Seattle to Detroit to Kansas City, Missouri to Buffalo, New York to Chicago. Finally, he goes to Canada. And he actually gets caught in Canada on June 13th, 1927. This is from the Winnipeg Evening Tribune. This is in Canada.
Police on Strangler's tail. 14-year-old schoolgirl second victim of mad killer. Child selling flowers lured to rooming house by slayer and murdered.
So now he's killing children.
But so this is his second murder
in Canada. Yeah, so this is like murder. 25th. Yeah.
Okay.
So he goes from killing... The MO starts boarding houses.
He goes way younger.
He goes way younger. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Finishes.
It's crazy,
young.
Isn't it? It's crazy. And I think he starts old because of the
grandmother
the
thing.
grandmother thing. He always had a lust for the grandmother. Then he kills one lady that looks remarkably like his own aunt.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, he just starts getting younger and younger, and he's killing children. If you see here, child selling flowers lured to rooming house. So he's actually perfected his MO. And not only that, but he's basking in it. He's a celebrity. He's the gorilla killer. He's loving it, you know? He's loving what he's doing. He found his passion in life, and he's taking it to new levels, and he would keep killing. And luckily for us, he went to Canada, and thought I'd never say this, but Canada, good job. Now, on June 27th, 1927, he was caught in a barber shop getting his hair did.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's got plenty of money, because he would go, and one part of his MO is he would rob these houses. One house he robbed, he got like 10 grand. You know, he would have plenty of money. And even if he wasn't killing every time, like, he would stay in a house like every other night or whatever, the vacant houses, the vacation homes, and steal the money. So he had good money, you know. He was in a barbershop. He got caught in his trial. He was sentenced to death, obviously, and he was hanged on January 13th, 1928. Here's a photo of him right here. I'll put this on talkmurder.com. That's him, little short, stocky dude. And his words right before he was dead was this, if you want to read this.
I am innocent. I stand innocent before God and man. I forgive those who have wronged me and ask forgiveness for those I have injured. God have mercy.
So he claims he didn't do anything. And this is a monkey throwing poop.
Great.
So that's the gorilla killer. The condensed version, obviously, there's 25 murders. It could have went a lot more in depth about that. But any questions?
No?
Wow. Cray. Never heard of him.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't. It's, you don't hear about this guy. He actually wasn't very famous at all, which is crazy, but I think it's because of the war machine that was going on at the time.
Makes
Now, we were
sense.
like all in that war at the time. You know what I'm saying? You know, and plus he was killing older ladies at first. It's like, yeah, it sucks you killed a 63-year-old, you know, but it's not some 15-year-old cheerleader, blonde cheerleader. I mean, let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
You know.
There's something to that.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's probably, if he was killing nothing but blonde cheerleaders, he may have been a little more famous. But anyway, that's the story of Earle Nelson, the gorilla killer. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. This is Talk Murder Me. If you enjoyed that, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. We're also on youtube.com, and type in Talk Murder Me. You can find us on talkmurder.com. And my name is John. I'm here with Jen and Nicole. And until next time, good night, you lovely, lovely people.